important in science is that we have to be creative and we have to come up with innovation. Otherwise, it's useless to be a scientist.
So we're here today with Kai Simmons, Professor Emeritus at the MPI for Cellular Biology and Genetics in Dresden, and founder and CEO of Lipotype GmbH in Germany. And thank you for coming and having this conversation with us today. Our first question is, in your book, The Magic of the Collective, you talk about building a collaborative research environment. In a new institute, what are the challenges you need to overcome to build a collaborative and successful research center?
I think the most important thing to begin with is that you build a new institute now. How do you do it? And that is that you have to find some topic that you are going to cover in research. And we put up how cells form tissues for MPI-CBG in Dresden, where Marina also was a director. And then the next thing, of course, is to have people who fit into that. The title comes from them, but it is something that you think about when you put together the senior team. That first of all, what are they doing? The most important thing, that they are good researchers, but they also have to have some social capabilities. If you want to build up an atmosphere of trust and where people feel happy, I mean, sometimes at least, not all the time, that will be impossible if you do research, because it's sometimes so boring because nothing works and you don't know what to do. But then it works again and you get this feeling that it's all worthwhile. And of course, multidisciplinarity is so important today to solve problems, so we also have to cover a lot of technology, and we have to have facilities like you have now here. And it is not possible anymore to have the technology only in a lab. It has to be for the institute. And I think that those are the things. Of course, you need some money also.
Big one.
So thanks for your answer. And so regarding the collaboration side, we all know that science is much richer when we all collaborate with each other, but sometimes competition can get in the way and given by pressure, etc. So what do you think are the structural changes that need to happen in order for collaboration to prevail over competition? It's
of course a very important question and a very difficult question, because there is so much competition in research, and we can't get away with that. We can't change that, because institute cannot change the whole climate of research, but we can overcome that. And the amazing thing is that competition within the institute, between the research groups locally, is very bad. That is the worst. And I have the experience when I give talks in different institutes around the world that there's usually some problem in almost every institute. Two seniors are fighting each other, and then the atmosphere also for the PhDs and the postdocs is not good. So how do you overcome that? I think it is very clear, if it's a new institute, that is then one of the important issues that you have to take care of. And it means authority should not be very strong. Authority is competence, nothing else. Yeah. Only competence counts. And of course, if I'm a senior scientist, I'm much more competent than my PhD students and my postdocs. Otherwise, I shouldn't be there. And so that's very important. But also, multidisciplinarity helps also, because you now have to collaborate with other groups, and you have to learn to collaborate. Collaboration is not so simple. So that's an issue. And then comes this question of how much you stress papers. And in fact, it's stupid what we do today. Everyone should publish. And most of the papers are not good. They will be forgotten right away, as we all know. So why do we do that? We have to think about that. And in fact, in the end, for your career, if you want to continue as a researcher, you just have to have 2 or 3 papers when you want to become an independent researcher that are worthwhile.
Do you think that's changing at all now? Or it seems like it's a little better than it was 10 years ago.
I think it's a little better because of the multidisciplinarity that we have to solve complex problems, and we cannot do it by one group. We have to work together. But I would say still, if I look at the papers then, even if they look like collaborations.
Yeah, it's heavy on...
it's technology,
yeah. No,
different technologies. And that's not what it's really about. It's more. So many of those who are collaborating with you now don't even know what you're doing. Okay.
I think that feeds well into the next question. What specifically can younger researchers, PhDs and postdocs do to foster collaboration and help, especially with the multidisciplinary you're saying? It's really a different language that people are speaking.
Language, yeah. So I think it's very important that you know from the beginning that you are going to collaborate, and therefore you have to practice, and therefore you have to be more outgoing. And in fact, when we built the institute in Dresden, we were in the lucky position that we could influence the architects, that they put together a building that communicated, that supported communication. How many buildings support communication in research? No. Very few. They are usually labyrinths. Yeah. You get lost.
Wait till you see Peter.
Yeah, so that's an issue. And as a young researcher, you have to be aware of this is going to be the future if you're going to continue, and therefore you have to practice. I just stress that without practice you cannot do it, because you're going to make mistakes.
And going back a bit to your book, we already touched about this topic before, but you also talk about the, let's say, sensitive issue of scientific fraud and whistleblowing. And of course, this is also something that comes from the competition, etc. And we wanted to ask you again, especially keeping in mind early career researchers, what tools do you think should be in place to help them prevent this? And again, also based a bit on what we discussed before, do you think that the current publishing system somehow is involved or, let's say, favors this type of scientific malpractices?
I think competition and the pressure to publish is a very bad, so to say, stimulus for excellent research. Mm-hmm. And that you want to get your paper out so soon as possible, and you also then, and you have to remember that the data that you put in there have to be okay, and you're not going to embellish them because this looks better. And then when something goes wrong, there has to be a system for whistleblowers in the institute, and if this doesn't work in the institute, it has to be nationally, and you can go there, and that you are protected as soon as you do that. Mm-hmm. That is the more important thing that we, and why is it such a problem? Because usually when something goes wrong and there has been falsification or real problems, you may have to pay back your grants and the reputation of the institute. So that's a formidable combination, and therefore, but it is clear that that's the worthwhile issue in science, that we can produce data. They might change by new data, and then we correct. It's an ever-growing process of correcting, moving on, correcting, moving on, and that's something for society to understand. That's what science is about.
Pushing the society aspect a little bit, science doesn't operate in a vacuum. There's always complex geopolitical things going on. I think every era has had their unique problems. I think especially now there's a large anti-science push, especially in the United States, but also in Europe. What role do scientists have in combating misinformation in the anti-science agenda?
I think that what I just said is so important. Take the COVID pandemic. I mean, the public was so amazed that, you know, the scientists changed their opinions. But why were they amazed? Because we had never warned them. We have never told them how science works. And that's where it really goes wrong. We are not saying this very obvious fact that are maybe some absolute truths, but very few. Most of if I look at my work, I know that in 10, 15 years' time there has been changes, and it has to be accommodated into the work that we then put together.
And as a last question to wrap up, do you have any advice for young researchers that wish to pursue an academic career?
I think if you look at the size of the labs today, we all know that most of them won't be academic researchers. They won't make it, and they don't probably want to do it even. So we have a problem there that we have two big labs, and then before my time when I started, it was more clear that if I went into research, I want to be academic researcher. Today it is also so to say something you do and then you do something else, and that dilutes the science. And how do you change that? First of all, I think we change it by having smaller groups. But anyway, young researchers have to know that they're really obsessed by science. Some obsession has to be there. It's like a writer, if it's like an artist. They're like anyone who's doing creative work. They have to be obsessed. And you have to find this problem where you think your obsession lies. You want to solve it. And therefore, it is this thing, first of all, deciding, am I really up to it? Do I really want to do it? I see how hard it is. And you don't have to make a decision right away. You just go on and see if you, by doing, you are learning, PhD and postdoc. But by the end, in the postdoc time, you have to know, am I going to do it or not? You don't have to do it know it in the PhD yet. You can continue. And then when you go, then you have to take into account all the things we have discussed already now. But it is this thing that I want to do something, and that I'm not so interested in all the blah blah blah. But it's not an individual pursuit. It is together with other people, other scientists. I mean.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your insight, and it's been a pleasure.